Bitcoin. Where are we going from here, Gareth?
Yeah, so I think that Bitcoin is doing what it should do right now, which is chopping. One of the big things I've talked about is how amazing the chart is that you connect the highs from 2021 and then a parallel line, perfectly parallel, connects the lows from 2021 into 2022. So there's a range here, right? There's a big range, and then you have a secondary range when you connect this orange line to these lows. And it seems like that's what we're doing right now, right? So you hit this line, you went up here, you came back, now you've gone up here. Now we're seeing a little bit of selling, but I think what you're going to do is you're going to go back up and retest it and then kind of continue to trade up and down. Now, the negative of that is that this pattern, when you drop like this, and then you start doing this choppy action, it's actually creating what we know as a bearish pattern. In fact, interestingly enough, this drop and this choppy sideways action, you could make a case it's starting to create a wedge pattern. And we just talked about it right on the ruble. So if we just flip back to the ruble, and again, I hate comparing the ruble to Bitcoin, but at least in terms of the price pattern, it's kind of the same, right? Here's your big collapse, and now you're starting to trade in this range here. And then my guess is eventually Bitcoin does break lower and goes down. I still have a price target of like 20K or sub 20K, man.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. People were excited and telling me I was wrong and all of that during the rally, but I honestly think the rally was literally it wasn't a technical move, it was a fundamental reason why we saw, and that's something that none of us could forecast, right? Those are
Yeah.
kind of, I don't want to call, maybe black swan, I guess, but the oligarchs and billionaires needed to flee, and they chose Bitcoin because that was the only thing they could do without any
Yeah.
sanction
And
activity.
the positive thing about that is, I mean, even if you're me and you have like this midterm, 6, 12 month target of like 20 or sub 20, the bottom line is that what's going on and how Bitcoin is being used is very bullish for the
Very
long
bullish.
term. So like,
Yes.
yeah, you got to wash out all this crap. I think today now there's over 17,000 cryptos out there, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to be kidding me. How many do we need? 100,000 is going to be enough. I mean, where does it
Right.
end? So you got to flush this kind of weak money out, and then the best will survive. And again, the question is, how low does Bitcoin have to go during that flush, where then the Darwinian, the strongest, will ultimately survive and go higher. But that's my guess is what you're doing here is you're chopping. You'll create kind of a bearish sideways wedge. Then you'll head down on the chart. You'll break down. If you think about it like this, right? The S&P 500 is down, I don't know, what is it, 10 or 10% or whatever off the
Mm-hmm.
highs. If we get another 10% correction in the S&P, and you've already seen a 40% correction in Bitcoin, you would think that another 10% in the stock market would drive Bitcoin probably down to 20 just by itself.
Right.
Have that next leg lower. So again, one of the things I love to show people is the pattern on Bitcoin, right? So let me remove these lines because I want to show this here. I love showing this because this is one of the most powerful concepts to understand. So if you look at the chart of Bitcoin recently, right, over the last year, 2 years, you have this kind of M pattern, right? And then what you want to do is you want to say, okay, well, in history, the .coms are very similar. So go to Amazon. And if you go to Amazon and we flip over to the weekly chart and go back to the .com bust or just before it, the pattern
I
on,
see the
on
M.
Amazon is
Mm-hmm.
almost identical, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have this same M pattern. And then ultimately Amazon went from $112 to like $6. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're waiting to buy Bitcoin, you might get a great opportunity at even as low as 10 or sub 10,000. But check this last thing out. So remember this M pattern on Amazon. Now what I'm going to do is show you the future for Bitcoin. Yes, it could get nasty over the next 6, 12, 18 months. But if we go to the monthly chart on this Amazon chart, look at this, folks. So you know where that M pattern was?
All the way down there.
Right there. So if you want to make a long case, bull case for Bitcoin is
Yeah.
that, yeah, sure, it's got to have the .com bust and you got to see a lot of this crap washed away. But if it follows Amazon's track, you're going up a hell of a lot in the next, 20 years, which is actually what I think is going to happen.
No, that's great. So we talked about what World War III looks like for stock markets. What does it look like for Bitcoin? What does that look like if we go kinetic, like full kinetic, with other countries involved in this
Man,
mayhem?
scary to talk about even that scenario. But I mean, if we were drawn into a military conflict and hopefully it doesn't escalate to nuclear weapons, but I do think then as it would be a risk off trade. Everyone would rush to the US dollar. They would
Yep.
rush to physical metals. I think especially with nuclear war, or at least the potential of it, you have to understand that the grid could go
Physical.
down.
Yeah.
There could be attacks on the US grid or anywhere in the world, which then, arguably a lot of people would lose access to their Bitcoin. So Bitcoin could easily see a flush to, literally 5,000 or sub 5,000. But again, I do believe that it will eventually rise from the ashes if that were to happen. And hopefully not literal ashes, but, will rise and do really, really well.
Anything last statements on the current conditions that we're involved in?
I think just be ready for volatility. Be ready for there's headlines coming out multiple times a day that whip oil and whip the markets and whip Bitcoin and everything. So I think you have to just understand that this is a market to be very careful with. Don't commit all your capital to any one direction or any one trade. It's a preservation of capital market right now. Wait for something good to come up before you jump on board. So be safe out there, folks.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.